Our next presentation is going to be given to us by Emily Rohrer and Valorie Dupraz. Emily and Val both work for South Dakota Natural Resources Conservation Services. I'm going to try really hard to not acronym you all to death, because I think, well, most of you probably know these acronyms far better than I do. Maybe there's some of you who don't. So if anybody ever says something that doesn't make sense or you need acronyms spelled out, let me know and I will try to make that announcement as well. So without further ado, thank you, Emily and Val.
All right, so I'm Val Dupraz. I'm the Assistant State Conservationist for Programs. I'm stationed out of Huron.
I'm Emily Rohrer. I'm the State Rangeland Management Specialist, and I'm located out of Rapid City. I'm pitch hidden for Jessica today. So,
all right, so we're here to share with you some of the efforts that South Dakota NRCS. Okay. So we're here today to share with you some of the efforts that South Dakota NRCS has invested in the control of the cedar encroachment. So from a financial resource perspective, South Dakota has invested in 122 financial assistance contracts on over 100,000 acres for over $6.6 million to address the woody encroachment issue that we've had within the state. So that effort, I'd say, is definitely reflective of what we've done, but it's not reflective of the need. We've had numerous contracts that we've had applications for additional assistance that we haven't been able to fund. And I would say just within the last year, we've had a really large increase within our financial assistance allocations to the state. And I would say that this resource concern regarding the woody encroachment has been a priority for our financial assistance dollars. So those contracts have really grown over the last year and really even 2 years because we've had the additional assistance to meet the need. So we've got additional Inflation Reduction Act funds for fiscal 25 and fiscal 26. So the opportunity is even greater moving forward to go to contract with producers to address this woody encroachment issue. So Emily, you're going to talk about some of the current agreements that we've got in addition to the financial assistance that we put into producer contracts.
So currently we have a few different agreements with different partners from across South Dakota, and if you add all those agreements up, it's about $2.3 million in education, outreach, funding. So currently we've got agreements with SDSU, South Dakota State University, to help with some prescribed burn association development. We have also just recently created an agreement with Pheasants Forever for additional staffing about prescribed burning, and then also with the South Central RC&D for outreach and education as well.
And those are just the current agreements. We've had numerous prior agreements to support the effort to address the woody encroachment that we didn't include on this slide, but we've definitely made investments for many years. To get program specific, we have a conservation stewardship program, and each year the state receives, well, this year our allocation for that program is about $42 million. Prior to that, it's been around that 20 to 22 million. But there are multiple enhancements that are available through that program that would support the woody encroachment control. There's a patch burn grazing, so what that enhancement does is it burns small areas and then protects the area, and then it gets grazed, and it's a rotation throughout the operation. There's another one, the short interval burns for promoting healthy herbaceous plant community, and then a third enhancement that has sequential patch burning. So we've also got an enhancement for fuel breaks. So there's quite a bit of support within our conservation stewardship program to support the prescribed burning that would also address the woody encroachment issues. We also have our flagship program, the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, and there are numerous practices within that program that also support the woody encroachment control. So prescribed grazing would provide the compensation for some of the deferment that is required after your prescribed burn to allow that vegetation to regrow and be prepared for forage harvest again. There's a payment for prescribed burning itself, the fire break installation, so it's got some of those support mechanisms that are needed before and after the prescribed burn. There's annual forages, and that would be somewhat like a seasonal long cover crop. So we have the opportunity to not only look at the grazing lands that are, seeing the encroachment issues, but also address some of those cropland areas where you have opportunity to provide forage when needed due to the fire impacts. There is a brush management practice code that would address maybe some smaller wooded areas or encroachment areas that may not be set for a prescribed fire. We've had several different initiatives recognizing this impact to the state. We have a conservation implementation strategy, and within that overall program, we use our South Dakota allocated dollars. And how that works is we have local partners that come in and request funds from the agency to address specific resource concerns within their area. And I'm sure it's no surprise to this group that one of their significant concerns is the woody encroachment. And if we had a little bit more time today, I would share some maps and areas and specifics on the projects, but there's been well over $1 million invested through these conservation implementation strategies to address the local areas where the woody encroachment is very significant. We have a joint chiefs effort. That's a collaborative effort between the Forest Service and the NRCS. So the two agencies together requested funding from our the national funding sources, our headquarter offices. And we have collaborated to identify areas of greatest concern to get national level funding for the cedar control. Within the state, we've identified and put funds aside for the Great Plains Grassland Initiative. And I've got a map here and a couple slides that will show where that is. But each year we allocate a significant amount of funds to a fund pool to address the cedar encroachment. And then lastly, we have a wildlife fund pool. And each year, 5% of our financial assistance funds are set aside from EQIP to address wildlife needs and the restoration of these grassland biomes. Control of these woody encroachment species is definitely something that fits under our wildlife fund pool funding opportunities and addresses multiple resource concerns. So this is a Joint Chiefs project area. The map isn't that great, but it shows the scope of the project. So in fiscal 24, it was our first year of funding, and South Dakota had received about $375,000 from national funds. And then we also invested some of our statewide funds as well and obligated about $600,000 in producer contracts within that project area. For fiscal 25, we've got in that $475,000 range coming from headquarters that I expect that we will also invest some of our South Dakota allocated funds towards as well. This is that Great Plains Grassland Initiative. This is an area where we've created a fund pool, an opportunity for these areas in that brownish colored shapes. And last year we obligated over $400,000 to producer contracts that included the cedar control practices. And in fiscal 25, we have allocated $500,000 because the need was very great last year and we weren't able to fund all of the requests. So we identified a great need. It's a definite priority, and but this is the project area that is kind of the focal point of that effort. So in addition to Conservation Stewardship Program, Environmental Quality Incentives Program, we also have the Regional Conservation Partnership Program. So this program is a national opportunity where partners, they take control. They're in the driver's seat. They submit project proposals for funding. And this year there were over 200 project proposals submitted. South Dakota had 6 funded. Of the 6, 2 of them have woody encroachment control included as some of their primary efforts. I can't provide a lot of details at this point in time because we're going through final negotiations to finalize activities and agreements, but we have an accelerated prescribed fire in South Dakota. That project's worth $24 million. The lead partner on that is Pheasants Forever. And then we also have an Intertribal Buffalo Council project that was funded, and they are looking they have multiple different priorities within their project, but it's all about restoring the native vegetation and controlling the woody encroachment that they have experienced within reservation areas.
All right. Okay, so we've got a lot of money, as Val has talked about, but we also offer technical assistance, so planning for prescribed burning and helping producers with all that goes with that. So we want to help producers develop a ecologically based prescribed burn plan, make sure that they're following objectives, not just burning to burn type of thing. We also help recommending different practices that go along with prescribed burning, so fire break, deferment, all of those things. We also provide burn plans and review burn plans for the Conservation Reserve Program, so that all works through our offices, and across the South Dakota we probably review over 100 burn plans every year. So within our agency, we've got this thing called job approval, and that's the controls that we put on our employees to make sure that they're properly trained to do the things that we want them to do. So one of those, so for prescribed burning, we've got a couple of different classes of job approval authority. So going from just being able to recommend a burn, they have to go through some training in order to do that, and then to start writing burn plans and approving them, or making sure that they're complete. They have to go through more training. And so these are the different levels and how they're broke out for South Dakota. Employees within national policy, there's in our general manual for NRCS, we have national policy for prescribed burning. It's got its own title. Not every conservation practice has that, but prescribed burning does. So it's pretty important from a national standpoint, but we follow national policy where it says that we can assist with the development and design of burn plans. We can participate in prescribed burning activities. We cannot be a burn boss unless it's a training burn, but even then, we still don't try to do that very often. We can serve as operations managers, serve on the crew, assist with ignition and suppression, and take weather measurements. So we can do all those things to help train producers to learn how to prescribe burn on their land. So training-wise, we've got we help with the bigger partnership, do trainings for prescribed burning, but we also, within our agency, do prescribed burn on the job training with our employees and partners. So this is just a snapshot of how much we've done in the past few years of training. Over the past 4 years, when we've really started to get into prescribed burning training, we've helped producers burn over 2,000 acres of land. So it's we're just getting started. We're still trying to train up our employees to know when is best to burn and what are the best techniques to work with producers on. Much of our brush management that has been completed throughout the past 10 years has been just brush management and has not been followed up with fire. So we're getting to that point of everything's kind of re-encroaching, if you think about it that way. And so we really need to start doing more prescribed burning to extend the lifespan of that brush management practice. And just use brush management along with prescribed burning to help facilitate that being a more effective burn. So with that, if you guys have any questions, Jessica's number and email is there, and Val. So I don't know if we have time for questions.
We have about 10 minutes for questions, so
Okay.
you're good.
So when I talked to my NRCS person and looked at the some of these different available programs, and we'd look at what we would get for doing certain conservation measures, and it might say like $1.58 per acre or some, they have it all broken down. But then he said, but you know, there is a minimum payment that we make that suddenly made it all worthwhile. It was not going to be worthwhile for me to do this for my small acreage. You know, I don't have 200 acres or something, but if you want to, can you mention that? Because that was a game changer, that there's a minimum payment.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So what that gentleman is visiting about is the Conservation Stewardship Program. So that program in particular looks at your entire operation. We evaluate multiple different resource concerns on it, but at the very end, we provide payments for each acre of activity, but there is a minimum payment of $5,000 a year. So, that would be an example. They just increased it within the last year or two. So if your contract was prior to that, it was $1,500, but that's increased to $5,000 a year. So, some small scale operators will often reach that minimum payment of $5,000. So, and the burn may be in a single year, but they're 5-year contracts. So that minimum payment would apply for all 5 years. So, yes, thank you. Great question.
I was just wondering if any of the programs, such as the PCPP, is that a program, or am I misunderstanding that? Do they allow for? Is there money that's allowed there for actual, like, you get money for purchase of equipment for like prescribed burn associations, things of that nature?
So there are unique opportunities through the RCPP program, and generally the planned activities have to coincide with what the NRCS provides for practices, but there is also a unique opportunity to do what they call an alternative funding agreement. So then that allows the partner to maybe go outside of what NRCS offers for practices. So I'll meet up with you afterwards and give you my card so I can connect you with our RCPP coordinator to ask some of those types of questions. Mm-hmm.
Going forward with EQIP and initiatives like the Great Plains Grasslands Initiative, are those areas going to be set in stone, or do you foresee those changing? A lot of those prescribed or brush management is important south of Wall. That's where I'm at. I'm in the same office as Emily. But could we look forward to possibly seeing something on the Cheyenne River for the same fund pool? Is there anything in the works on that, or is that something to make a proposal on?
Our landscapes are very diverse and they change. So we do have some flexibility within our project areas that if we aren't hitting the target with where we've started and we need to pivot to be more effective, we have those opportunities. But what we need as an agency is to hear from the field staff, the partners of, I am totally invested in what you're doing, but if you would consider adjusting your project area or doing something different, I feel it would be more effective. So Yes, so they're somewhat flexible. It depends on which initiative as to what level we would have to ask at. So if we wanted to change our Joint Chiefs project area, that would be something I would have to go to headquarters and request with, a justification. If it's like you'd mentioned that Great Plains Grassland Initiative, that's a state identified priority and fund pool, so we can make adjustments to that more easily. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It just so I think it was 2 slides ago, just to confirm that NRCS personnel, field office personnel, can assist with private lands, burns, and obviously outside of burn boss or what the slide said, I guess. And I think it's tremendous that as far as training goes, hands-on training is absolutely critical for this, and it's good to see you guys doing that. I guess it's just South Dakota policy right now, as far as trying to push these kids. I feel like they're eager and willing, and could really benefit from some hands-on experience. And just curious if it's just training opportunities or if it's any burn opportunities within private lands projects, programs, et cetera.
So every person has to have job approval authority before they can start helping with burns. So they have to have that basic level of JAA, and then they must be under the supervision of somebody else with that job approval for that level of burn. So and that can include partners. So if they're helping out like the Mid-Missouri or one of the other prescribed burn associations, they would kind of qualify for that level of JAA. And it's also dependent on their supervisor. Like we don't want them running around burning everything if they've got other things to do. So kind of depends on their supervisor and also the employees themselves if they want to be involved or not. We don't want to pressure anybody to be doing prescribed burning if they're not comfortable, because it's very important to make sure that that's where their passion lies as well. So there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle, but if the supervisor is okay with it and they're within their JAA, they can help out with those burns.
I was just curious, I saw assist on ignition. Is there any place we could find a little more clarity on that portion of your slide for NRCS employees helping that?
Dragging the drip torch. That's what that means. Is that the question? Yep. Yeah. But not bossing a burn. Okay. Yep.
I got a question is, if you signed up for grassland CRP, would that prohibit a burn plan or burning? Is there any programs that would prohibit you from burning?
That you have to have a burn plan, of course, to burn within grassland CRP. I do think you are, Rod, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, limited by some of those CRP rules of when you can burn. Is that correct, Rod?
Yeah, I guess when it comes to CRP, you want to work with your farm service agency because they administer that program, but NRCS can assist with a burn plan.
Just the timing might be a little different. You might not to be able to burn when it might be most appropriate. But you should work with FSA first.
Yeah, so the big issue with CRP is the nesting date and getting that
Thank you guys. We are out of time. However, it sounds like there were a lot of questions and a lot of thoughts kind of rumbling about that. So maybe at the end, you two can just prepare to have some questions aimed at you for NRCS-based stuff. So,
Great questions are coming in.
Yes, thank you.
Use these for end of day discussion.
Thank you, Emily and Val.